Hi, everyone. Trey here with Student of the Leaf. And today is our very first live stream interview. And I've got with me Mr. Greg of Forte Y Libre. So I've got him in the waiting room right now. Let's go ahead and just bring him in. How are you doing today, Greg?
Doing good. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. Now, I have a question for you. Did I pronounce your company's name correctly? Is it Forte y Libre?
It's Fuerte Y Libre. You basically there. I mean, it's a whole other language. They have a different word for everything in Spanish. So if you don't roll the R, it's okay.
Okay, yeah, because that's always a hard thing for me, like just to roll that tongue a little bit to get that that perfect R.
hmm
So now Forte y Libre, does that stand for strength and what is it? Well, free and
Yes.
strength and free.
Yeah,
What
it's
is
it's strong. It's strong and free. So
okay?
I'm a big fan of strong cigars, and my last name is Free. But when we chose the name for the company, I wanted it to be a Spanish name just to fall back to the heritage of cigars in the Dominican Republic and also the rest of Central America and Cuba. But I wanted something that also spoke to America, and Strong and Free just kind of exemplifies the nation. And so that's how we settled on Strong and Free or Fuerte y Libre.
So strong and free, Forte y Libre. Um, that is a it's a fitting name for your company. Now is it indicative to the flavor profile of your cigars in your line as well too? Are they pretty much all strong?
So that's a perfect question. We all, I think, as cigar smokers, most of us go through these phases where we start mild and then we work our way up, or we start flavored and then we go mild and work our way up. And at least that was my path. And I find that's the path of a lot of people. So when was starting the company, the foundations of it, creating the name, it was 2013. It took until 2019 to get cigars in the country. And during that time, my palate was changing. And a lot of it was changing because I was creating blends. So as I was creating blends, in order to get the flavor that I really wanted, to be able to experience it instead of having all that strength just kind of punching you in the face, I went back to a more medium or medium plus profile. So we named it when I was all full bodied strong. Now I'm more medium plus. So right now, all five of our lines are in the medium to medium full range, but we are coming out with a true full in the fall. We haven't quite settled on the blend yet. We've got two that we're working on, and I'll talk about those as we get into the blends. But we're also coming out with a true mild, which we don't have, and that will be released in about 4 months.
Oh wow. Okay. So did you say that you've been working on Forte Libre since 2013? Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And so you know what? Let's go ahead and pivot to the actual blends itself. Let's go ahead and knock that out the park because there's
Okay.
also something else that I like to do, and I'll do that towards the end. I'm kind of flipping things around.
That sounds great.
So yeah, let's talk about your lineup and the cigars that you have in your lineup.
All right. Well, I've got a sampler here handy, so I'm gonna hold this up, and let me make sure I can get it in line and that you guys can see it. Can everybody kind of see? There we go. That's probably better right there, right?
Yeah, a little bit better. Yeah.
So in order from the opposite side from where my finger is, starting with the black band. So that's our first release, and we have that in two different wrappers. So it's a true Dominican expression. The core of it is Dominican Pelado Cubano, and that's also the binder. And then there are two different wrapper choices, an Ecuadorian Habano and an Ecuadorian Maduro. So this is a solid medium cigar that really speaks to Dominican heritage. As most of you know, it's very hard to grow a wrapper in the Dominican Republic unless you've invested a lot of time and money, like some of the big players in the industry have done. So we're getting all of our wrappers from outside the country, but the core is still going to be that Dominican Pelado Cubano. So the next line in the white band is Bushwhacker. It's also Dominican filler and binder. And it comes in an Ecuadorian Habano wrapper on the lighter side, and it comes in a Mexican San Andres wrapper on the more full bodied side. So that one, because there's no Lajero in the core, is still going to be a medium smoking experience, and it's going to be a medium minus in body on the Habano side and a medium plus in body on the Mexican San Andres side. The next line is the Purple Band, or Blue as some people may see it. That's the Midnight Bender. That was the first cigar that I blended myself, and I blended it for my palate. It's also the closest to full body that we have, and it's a medium full smoking experience. In the core, you've got double Dominican Lajero, Dominican filler and binder, Mexican San Andres wrapper, and as I said, that's going to be a medium to full smoking experience. The next one in the lineup is the Sun Country. The Sun Country, it looks like a mild cigar. It's an Ecuadorian Connecticut wrapper, but the core of it is a full-bodied smoke. So it smokes as a medium, but with the flavor of a full. So on the core of that cigar, we've got double Dominican Lajero. We've also blended Mexican San Andres wrapper leaf into the Dominican filler, put a Dominican binder on it, and then that Ecuadorian Connecticut wrapper. So you've got our top seller there because it's complex and unique, and it's just a good smoke that goes with just about everything. And then the final one was our second anniversary cigar. It came out a year ago in May, and it's double Dominican Lajero in the core, Dominican filler and binder, and an Ecuadorian Habana wrapper. And that one comes in 2 different box press expressions. And that's the lineup as it stands today.
Wow, that is that is quite impressive of a lineup. 5 cigars. You've been doing it since 2013, so we're talking about 9 years now.
Yeah, I'll go a little bit deeper in that. So we
Yeah.
started on the name of the company in 2013, but we didn't get cigars in the country until May of 2019.
Oh wow. Okay.
That's a whole other story.
Hey, well, we have nothing but time if you want to share.
Yes. Well, really quickly, we started in 2013 with the name, and then you work on the logo.
Mhm.
Then you start building the foundation for the company, but also trying to figure out what the federal government wants to do with premium cigars. And during that time period, if you follow the news at all in the tobacco industry, the FDA has been going back and forth on how to regulate premium cigars, whether they will or they won't, how they will, how they won't. And we were jumping through hoops. I wanted to be my own tobacco importer, so I went through the tobacco importer process. I registered blends. They came up with cancer labeling regulations during that time. I had to create a plan of how I would make sure that the 5 different cancer labels would wind up equally on a shipment I made to California versus one I made to Florida. Interestingly, and I had to show where they would go on the boxes. At that time, I didn't have boxes. I didn't even have a cigar. So I'm basically creating all these things from scratch. It took me 2 weeks. I send it all in. The very next day, there was an injunction. So a court decided that they couldn't require that. And so I spent all that time. And that's just one example of 100 different things that happened. There's a lot of fantastic people in this industry, men and women on the manufacturing and brand side,
Mhm.
that were happy to answer questions that I had. The problem is I didn't know the questions to ask.
Okay.
So it took me a little longer. I was working full time at a regular job, and didn't go full time during that time. And in fact, didn't go full time until a year ago, March. So I've really only been full time in the company for a year, even though we will have had cigars in the country since May of 2019. So it'll be 3 years in May. So
So
that's a big block of time.
yeah, and it's kind of you touched on something really quick where you said that everyone is willing to help. You just didn't know what questions to ask. And so that slowed up your process just a little bit more. I have noticed just in the interviews that I've been doing with a lot of the cigar makers, the blenders, and such, is that it is a tight knit family, correct?
Yeah, and for the most part, I think there's a few people that you'll hear others talk about. I haven't experienced it myself, but anyone that I've asked a question of, or even just sat down for a chat, has
Mhm.
been very open and answered any question I had, right down to dollars and cents. I mean, stuff that you think would be much more close to the vest.
Yeah.
But the reality is, I think we all view us as together against the government regulations. We've got this common threat to the industry,
Yeah.
and it's not each other. And so, for the most part, and I mean, I'll give a shout out to Sam Leccia of Leccia Tobacco was helpful for me. Omar DeFrias at Fratello has been very helpful. Eric Espinosa has been very helpful and forthright with information. That's just the top 3 off the top of my head, but there's been another 10 or 20 that have
Yeah.
answered my questions and added value.
Oh wow, that's really good. So one thing that I do want to hit on, since you did show the sampler, I want to put out there that this is our very first live stream. I think I've said that. And what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to actually do a giveaway from Student of the Leaf. Student of the Leaf, we're going to give away um, this nice little hat. So make sure that you have subscribed to the YouTube channel for this. And then we're going to give away this nice ashtray as well too. It's a Gurkha deep weld gold inlaid ashtray. And we're going to give the core line from Fuerte Y Libre as well too from Student of the Leaf. So you're going to get all 5 of those sticks that he just went over. And I wanted to make sure that I put that out now so that you could get excited. All the listeners and viewers out there get excited and share with your friends because this giveaway is going to be pretty good. So now that I got that out the way. So, are you able to go onto your website and purchase any of those sticks, or is it strictly only inside of brick and mortars currently?
So we're strictly sold at brick and mortar shops. Some of those shops do have an online presence, but I don't retail cigars at all. I chose not to get a retail license because I didn't want to compete with my brick and mortars that were really going to help me get in, without being out there in multiple states at, many stores, I wouldn't have the exposure that I have today. So I'm not going to compete with them. I don't have any intention to compete with them. But if you go on my website on the retailer page, a couple retailers will have noted next to their contact information whether or not they'll ship. So you can just go to their website. The retailers that say they ship, they've got a website. You can just go in, search for Fuerte Y Libre. You'll find my cigars. You can click. You don't have to talk to anybody. You can just pay your money and move on.
I do not condone or advocate not talking to people. I love talking to people.
I know, I do too. But ordering online, calling somebody, hoping the right guy answers the phone. It's just it can take a little more time. Whereas you can just go on and kind of surf and figure out what you need.
True. So it looks like so we have Cigar Adventurer, really good guy. Said he needs this hat. So I will say, make sure that you look out for the giveaway because you could win this hat instead of purchasing it. So the details are going to come. I'll give all the details at the end of this video of how we're going to run the actual giveaway. So 2013, you started the whole process of branding. And started the blending aspect and everything like that back then. And then you came into the US market in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And let's back up just a little bit further than 2013. How did you come to enjoy the cigar culture itself? Because you had to actually enjoy it to even start down the path of starting your own brand. So, I don't like to assume, but I'm going to assume that you actually enjoyed it before 2013.
Yeah, I actually did. There are some people in the industry that didn't, just were
Oh, wow.
looking for something to get into and got into it and then started enjoying it. You just don't know. But I've been smoking cigars since 1992. I bought a house, built a house in a new neighborhood that was next to a protected wetlands, which I thought was just really going to be beautiful. And it turns out that that's just a fancy word for swamp, which I wasn't aware of. And so there were a lot of mosquitoes in the neighborhood. And I got to be close friends with a couple neighbors. And one guy said, "How come you're never outside?" I'm like, "These mosquitoes are just crazy in the summer." And he goes, "You should smoke a cigar." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "They'll keep away half the mosquitoes." So he handed me a Baccarat, has a sugar dip tip, mild cigar. I smoked those for 3 years because that's what he handed me. I had no idea there was anything else until one day he rudely went on vacation in the summer, and I had to go to my own tobacco store and figure it out. And that's really where the true passion started. I went into a cigar shop. I walked in the humidor. The guy said, "Could he help me?" I said, "Yeah." I really don't. I'm looking for Baccarat. That's the only cigar I've ever had. And he's like, the only cigar you've ever had, you know. And I told him it's been 3 years. He goes, oh, I'm going to open your eyes. So he referred me to a couple other sticks, and then I went back and he referred me to a few more. And then, you know, before you know it, I'm smoking premium cigars that, you know, have a history and are really a part of the culture as a whole. And so that passion just continued to build over time. And that's where it came from, just mosquitoes, ironically.
So I will say that as a student of the leaf first, that mosquitoes brought you into the culture.
There you go.
Oh man, that is awesome. That is awesome. So, where are you from, if you mind me asking?
I'm from Frederick County, Maryland.
Maryland.
I was actually raised on a farm. I knew I was going to be a farmer. I went to college for horticulture. No question, I'm going to be a farmer. And then one day I needed health insurance, and my life took a turn in a completely different direction. But now I'm back to farming. You know, now we go to the DR once every 6 months. We visit the farm, and when we're there in late February, because that's when tobacco's high in the field. And we actually picked our factory because of a relationship they had with the farm that I visited that's being run very well and are true stewards of the soil.
Oh wow, okay. And you're like you said, you're going down there every 6 months and checking the fields and just the process and your product and such.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's if all you have is time, I'll tell you a quick story that I think really resonates with my style of doing business and how it might be different.
Mhm.
You know, obviously there are companies that have their own factories that they live there. They're in Nicaragua, they're in Honduras, they're in the Dominican, and they've been in the business for a while, or they had some money and bought a factory. You know, my I'm a little bit different. I was raised on a farm, and I don't do business with anyone I haven't met face to face. That's just the way my dad always did it, and it always worked really well for him. And he bought and sold horses for 30 years on a handshake, um, and so it always worked for him. So I was in the Dominican Republic, and I was visiting with Henderson Ventura. He has the Adventura line, and his father William Ventura is kind of a I don't want to say God too lightly, but he's really very well known as a master blender in the industry in the Dominican Republic. Very well known. And they had a factory in the tax-free zone. So I was visiting that factory. It was the brand new factory for them. And I talked to him about possibly needing a factory in the tax-free zone to supplement my current factory because you don't pay the tariff on the incoming tobacco if you're in the tax-free zone. So just to save some money in production. Still keep working with my original factory, but for some blends that really were going to use all tobacco that wasn't from the DR, it would just make some sense. So I'm talking to him about that idea, and we're about 2 hours into the conversation, smoking. We're on our second cigar, and he kind of looks at me, kind of pointedly and almost aggressively, and he points at me, and he's like, "Why are you here?" And you know, this is a young guy,
Mhm.
35 years old, really bright, obviously very well educated, and he's coming at me.
Mhm.
And I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm like, Henderson, I told you, you know, I'm here because I'm looking for a factory in the tax-free zone. And he goes, no, no, no. Why are you here? And I said, look, I don't understand the question. You know, what are you getting at? And he said, I get phone calls every week from somebody in the United States that wants me to create a blend for them, wants me to create a band for them, wants to put their name on it and sell their cigars. And he said, I do that occasionally. He said, but I never see those people. They never come here. Why are you here? And I said, I don't do business with anyone that I haven't shaken their hand and met them face to face. And you know, I go to the factory and I sit at the rolling tables and I color check tobacco and I put bands on and I put cello on. I just want everyone to know that when they're making my cigars, you know, they know me. They know me personally. So it's not they're not just making a cigar from some, you know, US billionaire. They're making a cigar for Greg. And I think that that's paid off in the quality of our cigars and also our ability to just get things done in a very difficult market.
So I do want to say, I think I already thanked you for taking the time to sit down with me and everything, but I'm trying to find the exact words that I want to say. I am highly appreciative to you and to Ash for setting this up because she talked to you and Ash from Big Ashes and Zahara down there at Cigars and More 2. They had their event recently. And for them to set this up kind of last minute while you're globetrotting, I really want to say thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me on. I mean, this is, as we said in the beginning, this is a community, and we all have this shared passion or this shared love. And there's, anytime I can talk to someone who's got a passion such as yours, I'm happy to be a part of it.
So I know I kind of just threw that in there, but I really wanted to make sure that I expressed my gratitude because, I mean, just hearing you going down to the DR, to check on your crops, the process, and to set up the deals and such like that. And you were just out here in California, and right now you're back on the East Coast. I know that your time is very limited. That's why I wanted to make sure that I did not miss the opportunity and did not forget to say thank you publicly like this. Um, Now, when it comes down to doing the business, it seems like you're doing it a little bit differently than most. I mean, that's why he was a little bit taken back, like, what are you doing here? um, do you still apply that same business savvy intact to all facets of Forte y Libre, or is it just that one and done situation?
So it's all facets, and that's what puts me on the road so much. It's
Mhm.
very difficult to be a brand new brand where people really don't know you. It's difficult for a shop to pick you up. There's been a lot of brands that have come and gone so quickly with fantastic cigars, and then they just disappear. Cornelius and Anthony is a Virginia-based company, just like me, and it's still a mystery to me how they disappeared as fast as they did. But they were delicious. They were great cigars, and so I get, when I talk to retailers, I get that it's a risk. So I almost need to have that face-to-face time and really build a relationship. It's a relationship business in order to inspire me or inspire them to pick me up, to bring my brand on and take a chance because, I'm not to 100 stores yet. Once I'm in 100 stores, I think that easily they'll pick me up a lot more easily. I'll have a lot more brand recognition. We're getting there. I've got stores calling me now that I've never actually talked to.
Mhm.
And I tell them, look, I'll send you a sampler. I want you to smoke them. I know you want to place an order today, but I want you to try them. And then when we get that order, I want to plan a trip. I want to go to your shop and do a cut and light so that your customers and I can talk and we can talk about the brand because that's the way it's going to work. It's not going to work if you just throw these on your shelf and I don't have the brand recognition that's going to drive sales. But if I can come to your shop, we'll make that happen. I picked up a shop in Mishawaka, Indiana, and he called me because he had bought my cigars at another shop in Texas that put out a sampler, and he bought them and he loved them. And he called me, and it's the same thing. I sent him a sampler, and then he ordered cigars, and he ordered his first batch like a month ago, and I scheduled an event with him uh, later this month. I think it's the 20. I want to say it's the 22nd of April. It could be the
Okay.
21st, but it's a Friday. Um, because I want to go do an event there. Now, interestingly enough, he already placed a backup order. He's out of everything already, and he said it has only been a month. So I'm not sure how they're selling that crazy in a state I've never visited,
Yes.
but I guess we're getting some of that brand recognition. But I told him I don't want you to carry my cigars unless you're going to agree to let me come there and do a cut and light. So we've got that scheduled. Within 7 weeks of him bringing the brand on board, we're traveling.
Okay. So let me ask you, how many stores do you know off the top of your head how many stores you're currently in? I know you said you're not at
Yeah,
100 yet.
we're at 55.
Okay.
And yeah, I hope I get to the point where I don't know exactly how many we're in on a given day, but right now
Hmm.
it's so critical to me. It's passion, like every store is so impactful to my business, and I appreciate every retail partner that takes a chance on me. That yeah, I know exactly how many we're in.
Perfect. Good. So let me see. So currently, right now, all of your all of your sticks feature Dominican tobacco, correct?
That's
And
correct.
that's from filler, binder, and wrapper, correct?
Not necessarily. The wrappers are not from the Dominican, but the
Okay.
cigars are made there. So all of our wrappers are either Ecuadorian or Mexican
Okay.
right now. And we're looking at some other wrapper combinations to bring them in from other countries. But the filler tobacco in all of our lines right now is Dominican.
Okay. So if you had to pick your favorite child, who would it be out of your lineup?
So I won't tell you my favorite, but I'll tell you the one that I smoke the most of. And it's
Okay.
not because it's my favorite, it's because I fill my box with it because it goes well with just about anything. And if you don't know what you're going to be doing, it's a great cigar for that. And that's the Sun Country. And it's actually the one that I'm smoking right now. So
Yeah.
it's the yellow band. It's that one that has the Mexican San Andres wrapper blended into the Dominican filler. It's
Hmm.
very complex. It's a great first cigar of the day. This is my first cigar today because it was raining this morning. I didn't get to go out and have coffee and a cigar, but it's great first cigar because you can really experience it. And
Yeah.
also it's a solid medium, but with a lot of flavor. So it's not going to just, slam you right into the deep end first thing in the day. And so I have more of those in my box than anything else. Now, later in the evening when I'm drinking a high proof bourbon or a scotch, I'll smoke a midnight bender
Mm.
because it's more medium full bodied. It can stand up to a higher proof bourbon or to an Isla Scotch with all that smoky peatiness. So
Okay.
that's kind of my when I go to that spectrum. And then the rest of them I smoke all the time. It's just those are kind of the two that have very specific uh, meanings to me in terms of smokability in any situation, or in terms of it's the only cigar in my lineup that I can really smoke with a high proof bourbon or a Scotch that's very peaty.
So I think I heard something. You like peat. You like that peat and that smoke?
I do. It's
Okay.
to me, it's like drinking a campfire. So I'm a Lagavulin fan, a Lafroig fan, an
Uh-huh.
Ardbeg fan. Uh, that's on the Scotch. That's the end I go to. I'm not really a big Scotch drinker, but when I drink Scotch, it's ironic that I'm not a big Scotch drinker, and then I just go right into the deep end on it. But I just really enjoy something that's that dramatic.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's indicative to, Forte y Libre. I mean, there it is. Strong and
Hmm.
free.
Hmm.
Um, Now, have you heard of a brand called Cole? I think it's pronounced Cole, Caol. Um, it is a
No.
Scotch.
Oh, Kyle. Yes, I have. Yep, I
Oh,
have.
okay. So you know that is smoky, smoky, smoky,
Hmm.
smoky, peaty, peaty, peaty.
Yep,
If you hadn't heard of it,
it's
I was going to tell you,
delicious.
try that one. I don't like it. You- I don't like a lot of peat. I don't like a lot of smoke. It wasn't for me. But I mean, that's with anything. It's all indicative and really relative, to your own palate. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah. So, once again, I definitely wanted to thank you for coming on. I'm not going to take up too much more of your time because I know that you're super, super busy. Um, unless you just have like a weird, funny story that you want to tell.
Well, there's a question about do each of my sticks have a story behind the smoke? And so, um, not the stick itself, but I will tell you how we name them. So,
Ooh.
we've got Bodacious and Bushwhacker and Midnight Bender and Sun Country and Second Wind.
Okay.
So, all the names are inspired by famous PBR rodeo bulls. So my logo is a bull.
Mm-hmm.
I rode in the local rodeo, like the county rodeo, when I was a kid. My dad was a horse trader. I was raised on a farm. We
Okay.
wanted something that symbolized kind of strength and freedom in America. And you think about a bull just standing alone in a field, it just seemed to fit. And then plus my history kind of folded into it. So we knew all the famous PBR bulls when I was a kid.
Okay.
So the first one was easy. We just named it Bodacious. That's the most famous PBR bull. He actually killed a guy, and no one could ever ride him. And yeah, he was crazy.
Oh wow.
So yeah, try that cigar, and then but then after that, when we're in the DR, we're there in late February and either September or October, and once we've settled on a blend like this, we finally fine tuned it. It's exactly what we're going to do. We'll get a bundle of those from the factory after a hard day of smoking cigars and drinking beer at the factory. We want to unwind by going to a cigar lounge in Santiago. There's a couple really good ones near the hotel that we stay at. And we'll proceed to drink a lot of bourbon or scotch and get good and lit. And then someone will open up their phone. It's usually the newest guy on the trip, like the guy who's never been before. and we'll say, open up your phone, search for the 500 top PBR bulls. List comes up, and that person who's drunk calls out names that they think meet the blend because we're smoking it. Like, what name do you think really goes with this? And they'll narrow that list down, and I'll be typing them in the notes field of my phone because I'm too drunk to remember them. They'll narrow it down to like 50 to 70 cigars or
Okay.
50 to 70 bulls. The next day, we're sober, another hard day at the factory, but we're reading through that list in the morning. So in our minds, each individual now is picking their top 5 out of the new compressed list. And then we go to another cigar lounge that night. We drink. Once we're good and lit, they prefer to the group at the same time. And then we look to see if there's a clear winner. And if there is, then that's the name. And if it's 2 that are kind of in the top, then we'll have a discussion, and that's how we name the cigar. And then I'll type that name in so we don't forget it. And that's how we name cigars. So that's a fun story about those trips and how we get to the individual names.
Oh wow, that is crazy. Looks like we have some comments in the chat. Okay, so you actually just went over the story behind this behind the smoke.
Mm-hmm.
Bodacious, strong, full-bodied, and brash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So interestingly enough, even though that is the bull, it was the very first line, and it's a true medium. So it's not going to be full-bodied. It's not going to be strong. It's going to be a nice expression of Dominican tobacco. So you're going to get a lot of that floral and feel that you get from Cuban tobacco, because inherently Dominican tobacco is very mild. And the thing that's lifting it up to medium is really the wrapper, which is 40% of the flavor. So that Ecuadorian Habano on one side and then the Ecuadorian Maduro on the other side, with the Maduro being more earthy and kind of hiding some of that floral and feel. And then the Habano being having a little bit of pepper in the first inch or so, but nothing that's going to burn you on the retro, and really kind of allows those Dominican flavors to shine through that wrapper.
Okay. So it looks like that's a 505 Cigar Review show who's actually joined us. So
Awesome.
have you been to his channel or anything like that? Do you get on to YouTube at all?
I haven't been to the 505 Cigar Review show. I've been on a number of different shows, and yours has been fantastic, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Although I think you could easily go an hour, and it wouldn't bother me at all. I'm not sure how long yours usually go, but usually a cigar is about the right time. I'll tell my kids I'll be ready in this much, just this how long it's going to be.
Yes.
But your questions are great, and I guess I would ask you a question. Why did you start this Student of the Leaf show?
Oh, wow. Thank you. So actually, this has been a concept of mine since 2015-ish, I would say. I went to my first cigar lounge with a buddy of mine, work with the VA. Um, I'm a veteran myself, but used to smoke cigars out in Iraq and everything like that on the 1st and the 15th. And it took me going to a cigar lounge one time to fall in love with it. And I said I really want to showcase and show off the culture for what it is, which is it's the people, it's the amount of stars that's out there, it's the knowledge, it's the camaraderie, it's the brotherhood, the sisterhood. This is what makes the cigar culture great. It's all of those elements combined, not just the stick. So it was something, like I said, I wanted to do, but of course, I didn't have any prior knowledge. I don't come from a background of radio or advertising or anything like that. Um, so it really took last year and me being bored because of COVID to be like, you know what, it's time for me to just get it out there. And so February of last year, I started the Wheels Being in Motion, and August of last year is when I officially launched. So it's been like I said, a work in progress, and it's really to highlight and showcase the culture for what it is. It's to bring people on like you and showcase, what brought you into it, and what drives you to do what you do. So. Thank you once again for coming on board. And the reason why, honestly, a lot of my episodes are not an hour or an hour and 40 minutes long, um, is because honestly, I've noticed just in the short amount of time that I've been doing it, because we're only on our second season right now. but I've noticed that I don't want to say the attention span is a little bit shortened for just the average consumer. And then also for podcasts, because I actually take the same content from the videos and I compress it down just audio only for podcasts. And so a typical person's only driving about 20 to 30 minutes typically. So I try to keep it that short so that you can get the full amount of information.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, happy to be a part of it. Thanks so much for having me on. I think that, what a great place to kind of showcase new knowledge, not just from brand owners, but like a master blender. Like, how do you come up with those blends? Like,
Correct.
what's going through your mind as you're thinking through that process? Because that was new to me, and understanding that process it would be a great half-hour show for you. Or, just the typical 10-minute, how do you properly light a cigar and smoke it? Just the simple stuff. Because so many people like you in 2015 just starting, they don't understand how they can go wrong so quickly. Torching your tobacco instead of just warming the foot. Those basic things that you wish someone had told you in the beginning, I think would be impactful to all the new cigar smokers and the old ones as well.
Correct. And that's something that we do have in the pipeline. We are already working on coming up with a series of videos on, like you said, how to properly light a cigar, how to properly cut a cigar, the different ring gauges out there, just the construction of cigars. So yeah, you're definitely spot on. And the other thing is that, this culture is ever changing. There's so many different tools and new tools coming out. So a person who's been smoking for 20 or 30 years can still learn something new as well too. Different
Yeah,
blends.
absolutely. Yeah, I think two of the coolest new things I've seen are the Select Draw cigar poker. They call it a cigar cutter, but it's Select Draw. Local Virginia company as well. Great guy owns it. And then I was just introduced to Easy Ash, which is a portable disposable ashtray that was just invented by a guy who just started smoking cigars like 2 years ago. And he's a great guy out of the Dallas Fort Worth area. Got to meet him personally, and he's doing some custom ones for me. But it's basically a flat piece of paper. You just throw it in your laptop bag, and then it folds into an ashtray that's got this aluminum lining in it so it can't burn. It just what a great idea. It's like, how come no one ever thought of that? And I travel all the time, so I'm using them constantly. So those two guys,
Okay.
you should get their story because it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely would love to. Now, were you at the TPE back in
I
January?
wasn't there this year.
Okay.
I wasn't there this year, and last year, the year before, I walked the floor with the intent of being on there this year. Timing didn't work out mainly because of uh, having to get to the farm. It really just we had all the inventory for the show, and ultimately just didn't go. But we're definitely going next year because I've heard it was a big mistake, and I don't want to make the same mistake again. And we're not going to PCA. PCA is a great show, just a little expensive for a new company.
Hmm.
That's about twice as much. So we figured TPE would be the way to go.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, that kind of breaks my heart a little bit because I will be at PCA and I would love to sit down with you. But I will say
Yeah,
that.
I mean, you never know.
Oh, sorry. Say that again.
I was going to say I may show up and just walk the floor, but I won't.
No.
I won't be a vendor for sure.
Okay. Great. So if you are walking the floor, we'll try to connect and everything because, like I said, I would love to sit down with you face to face. I kind of feel the same way when it comes down to doing business, doing interviews. I love the face to face interaction a little bit more than just over the phone or virtual. But at the same time, this is happening now because we have the tools to make it happen. So I'm appreciative for that. But on this note, what I'm going to go ahead and do is once again show off. We're going to be giving away a hat, the Gurkha ashtray, Deep Well gold laid ashtray, and the sampler pack from Student Belief, the sampler pack of Forte Y Libre's full lineup. So the way that we're going to run this is that I want to say, let's see, we'll probably do it in about 3 weeks. It'll be the first week of May. Yeah, we'll do 4 weeks. We'll do 4 weeks. The first week of May, we're going to go ahead and do the drawing. So it'll probably be the 2nd of May. We'll do the drawing. Of course, you have to be subscribed to the YouTube channel. And then we're going to pick out one, let's see, one thing. Let's see. Let's do one topic, one specific fact from Forte Y Libre. When did they start selling? When did they start selling cigars in the United States?
All
That's what
right.
we're going to go with. All right, so that's going to be the question. You'll have to watch this video, obviously, to get the answer correct. And yeah, you just have to comment on the actual video, and you'll just make sure you're subscribed also to the channel. Make sure you're also subscribed and follow Forte Y Libre on their Instagram page. And that is right here, easy, at Forte Y Libre. And you can also follow us on Instagram as well too, Student of the Leaf. And like I said, just make sure that you drop into the comments of this YouTube video, when did they start selling cigars in the United States? That's it. All right. But did you have any parting words or anything like that, Greg, for the listeners and the viewers
Um,
out there?
what I hate is when people say no and then they say something, but I'm going to say yes. I've got a parting word. I really appreciate the retail partners the most, but obviously, without people buying the cigars, they wouldn't be successful either. So, everyone that's a customer, if they can post a picture of our cigar and their experience and tag us on Instagram or Facebook, that would be great. It's a big help. Name recognition is the biggest challenge for a new company. So I tell my friends, they're like, what can I do to help you? I'm like, the best thing you can do is when you travel, you go into any cigar shop, whether I'm in there or not, and you ask for my brand.
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody watches this video, just go to your local cigar shop and ask. You don't have to then tell me about it. You don't have to tell them to carry my brand. But if I ever call that shop, now I've got name recognition. Somebody asked for them. So that's the biggest thing you can do for me. And then what I'll do for you is just keep coming out with new blends that are going to be great, and you're going to love them. Someday you'll be a professional bull rider too.
And honestly, that is a great story because I had no idea about the whole PBR uh, bull riding aspect of your cigar. So, thank you very much for sharing the entire backstory. And on that note, we're going
Awesome.
to go ahead and take off. So, remember, everyone, to keep smoking, keep enjoying, and keep learning because we're all students of the leaf.
Thank you.